not have run with the knights. There's a second decision to take up the fight with hostile. Dismayed at the call of doom, knights would come to a stop around the arch, steam roaring from overheated engines. Cockpit hatches slammed back. Warriors tore the interface cords of their thrones from their necks to stand proud of their cockpits and condemn her from on high. My daughter shows great courage for her work. She has done it all up. Though any that knew him well would have seen his humour for a time. None of us laughed. A heavy silence fell, subdued music. Strange machine sounds and the rattling of mechanisms sounded from one of the mechanical bells. A disturbing twittering, similar to, but horribly unlike that of birds, passed between several of them. The representative was the first to speak even words. I say she has taken the token. She has won. I proclaim House 5 victorious. From their expressions, the nobility expected the mechanical to cry foul, but the machine priests did not seem in the least perturbed. Mohana was a princess. She was well versed in statecraft, trained for the time she would enter the third era of life when her children were grown and she became barren. Old women spent their time smoothing and shaping the planet's Byzantine politics to suit their houses, never openly, always behind closed doors. She saw now what she had done. If the representative deemed the competition fairly won, it would set all the other houses against House 5. Her house would be the first to gain the mechanical's finished knowledge, and have the honor of fighting the war in the stars. But they would be left at the mercy of the other houses for generations. She had made her family reliant on the mechanicum for protection. But her father was no fool either. A sly expression entered King Rahajanan's eyes. A second, worse realization hit her. She saw in that moment, in that look on her father's face, that she had doomed herself forever for the sake of a moment of pride. King Rahajanan opened his mouth to speak. Great Mother! It is time to awaken. Chapter 2. Vox Omni Macula. While in transit, Luxor and Victoria's head was kept separate from his body in a soaring nails. The removal to the chapel was done not for respect for the warlord Titan, but for the machine's permanent occupant, Luxor in Victoria's Princeps and his human soul, Domina Princeps Bellicosa Altus Ziliatis Mohana Mancata Vai, the great mother of the Legio Solaria, or the Imperial Hunters, as the order was called in the Vulcan. Luxor in Victoria's head was altar, holy relic, and war machine in one. His glaring face, forged in the likeness of a great helm, stared down from a cradle that dominated the maze's apse. His emerald glassite eyes took the place of stained glass windows. His red angular visor was a part of the chapel's architecture. His soul was the conduit for the divine. Through him, the machine god was immanent. Princeps Majoris Asher Ani Mohana could practically taste the holy oil of the deity's blood. A dozen cyber constructs hovered over Luxor and Victoria's domed skull. 4 cyber cherubs supported a thick cloth canopy bearing the mottos of the Legio and the roll of its weapons. Lesser rock creations moved in regular, precise patterns over the head, written polish and lubricants of even metal. A servo skull, fashioned from the remains of one of the Legio's fallen heroes, moved around the armored legs. The large pair of polishing discs mounted in place of its jaw, buffing constantly. A second, equipped similarly, cleaned and polished the bronze panel trim in ceaseless rounds. Billows of incense puffed from auto-sensors. Fragrant lubricants steamed in wide bowls. A choir of servitor torsos, mounted in high galleries, sung hymns praising the glory of the machine. Devices hummed, gas exchange pipes hissed, bundled cables swayed in drafts, vented from the mouths of atmosphere's cycling freezes. The chorus was that of machines at work, but humanity was present there also. Red-robed engine seers worked discreetly behind fretwork screening off cloisters full of banks of blinking lights. There was a sense of anticipation, as if something miraculous was about to happen, as profound and calming as the last moment before sleep. All was peace. Neither the turmoil of the war buffeting the tantamount, nor Horus's war impinged upon the sanctity of the nails. Only the warlord Titan's head and its revered mistress stood there. The machine god commanded it.
Invictoria cannot begrudge having his head removed, if it makes the Great Mother sleep better,
said Princess Saranti Daha. She made to joke, as was her way. Her tongue was as swift as her warhound Titan, always eager, but her words came out of her, and she cringed slightly as they echoed off the marble and iron facings of the temple. 6 of them stood on the footway that rose from the nail's floor. Esha Ani Mohana and her subordinate princeps of the Imperial Hunters' second maniple. Unconsciously, they took the position their machines did when they walked. Esha at the front, her second, Jahani Jahan, to her right, and then the rest, Tozo Mindev, Saranti Daha, and Mohani Mohana, arrayed either side in wings that curved inwards, so that Daha and Abahani Lus were closest to the grand balustrade. Princeps Majoris Durana Fal, of 4th maniple, was also present, slightly apart from the others, although she had fought with 2nd for 3 years now. The women were of similar physical appearance, olive-skinned, dark-eyed, all but Lus black-haired. Lus's reddish braids set her apart a touch from the others, but only so much as sisters look a little different. They were a family.
We'll get that later.
All had the same straight nose, the same narrow face, bearing the same grave expression. They were handsome women, rather than handsome. Their similarity was accentuated by the dress uniforms they wore of dark green, heavy cloth, with knee boots and tall, stiff collars. Esha and Durana Fal's collars were red and decorated with frank posts cast in the shape of Reaver Titan's feet. The rest wore black, displaying splay-footed imprints of warhound scout agents. Hung about their necks were bronze ceremonial gorgets, stamped with the imperial aquila superimposed on the Nakina opus of Mars. They guarded these vestigial pieces of armor carefully. They were the sign of their faith with terror, and the fabricator general in exile. The footway raised the women up in height so that they might stand level with the eyes of the dormant machine. Esha's Reaver, Titan Domine Ex Venari, was not so mighty as Luxor in Victoria, but they were forged siblings, nevertheless, called forth from the same lakes of molten metal on Tigris, and Esha Ani Mohana thought of it hugely to the machine. Although it was somewhat oddness, the head of Luxor radiated potency. All Titans had a sense of danger, even when shut down. The same way a sleeping predator of flesh and blood would, but it magnified 10,000 times. And there were no killers of any kind, flesh or steel, greater than an Imperial battle Titan. The fragment of Domine Ex Venari's soul that Esha carried in her heart recognized Luxor in Victoria's superiority and urged her to kneel before the head. All the others of Second Manifold would feel the same. Their machines were lords of war, but they stood in the presence of the king. Not one of them did kneel. The 6 of them were sister-bonded princeps. They knew full well what it was to bridge the worlds of machine and man. Although Luxor in Victoria's eyes gazed out into the joys, and the machine under its might hummed around them, they were not cowed. The Titan's soul was a being to be worshipped, as the scriptures of Mars insisted. but it was also something to be dominated. One should never show weakness before a god machine, no matter how imposing. A princeps should have no fear at any cost. To show fear risked losing their own engine's respect. A loss of respect equaled a loss of control. And a princeps with no control was no princeps at all. So they stared the head down. Confidence, born from commanding its brethren, gave them the will required. Mohana Mankata Vai was another matter. She they did fear, and loved. If she was stood before them, outside the head and the amniotic tank she dwelled permanently within, they would not have been able to meet her eyes. 124 years ago, she entered the cockpit for the final time. Never again to leave. Imagine that, said Terza Linda in awe. Imagine, said Escher, she was the first of the Legion. She was there the day the first engine went, and the day its colours were granted. She has served in our ranks and commanded for 15 decades. She looked at her leader adoringly. You are blessed. She is far more than that, said Escher. In battle, Mohana Mankata Vai's presence filled the comms waves of their legion, linking them all so closely they could feel her breath on their necks. After so long a transit, they felt the need to be near to the Great Mother again, and being outside the disconnected head of Vai's command titan was the closest most of them would get to her in person. Ever. Mohana Mankata Vai awed them, but the machines did not. Abhani Lus knelt and marked the sign of the holy cog over her forehead. Mohana Mankata Vai, watch over us. Use us well in the coming war, she whispered. You are most praised, most exalted, bonded to the machine god by your mind, body, and soul. Watch over your liege, your great mother. She can't hear you, said Sarakiva. Again, she meant her words to tease, but they came out unbelieving and quiet. You don't mean it, said Lucy. She rose and brushed at her knees, although the nails were as clean as it could possibly be. She can feel our presence. We are all her daughters. She knows we are here. Maybe because you are here, said Linda. Granddaughter, mother, and daughter. A trinity worthy of the Omnisire. Silence, said Escher crossly. Linda was devout, and her constant reciting of the Mohana line irked her. You demean yourself with your envy. We are all daughters of equal worth to her, myself and Abhani Lus Mohana included. Not one of us is more important to the great mother than the others. They stood to attention in silence. The hum and whir of her sunlight took the place of human voices. The low ring of a bronze bell reverberated around the nails. The spell broke. Escher turned around on her heels as the second chime sang. Your Holiness, she said, and inclined her head in respect. The others turned at her words, and seeing who approached, knelt. We offer our greeting and respect to you, Major Smalfo Chrysophane, Dei Mechanic, who is Vox Omnia, forfeit machine and keeper of the secrets of the interface, said Escher. Chrysophane walked tall on 3 stilt legs. Their length lifted him high over the heads of the women, and the 6 Neocora acolytes walking behind him. Though he lurched unsteadily on his tripodal feet, he moved very quietly. Indeed, all his motions and his manner were quiet and thoughtful, for his role was communicator with the machine spirits. He was a direct auto-oracle, a speaker with and for the machines. As each machine spirit was a fragment of the machine god, his work was so holy it demanded he have the greatest respect for the devices he joined with, and make no unnecessary noise in case he missed the subtleties of their speech. The clamour of industry was a holy song to their god, but he went on quiet, rubberized feet. His was a difficult but crucial role. The Vox Omni Machina was hunched, with heavy diagnostic augmetic systems integrated directly into his spine. His red and white robes, the colours of the forge world of Tigris, were split along the back, so the artfulness of the flesh-machine bond and the blessed extent of his bionics were on display for all to see. Aged skin stretched under bonding pincers. Polished bone showed in his open back, enmeshed with wires. His head, by contrast, was wholly obscured by his hood. Though Escher had known Maltor Chrysophane for decades, she had seen his face uncovered only a handful of times. Beneath the crimson and cream, he retained human ears and scalp, and hair which had turned from brown to grey, and thinned over the course of their association. But his face was covered completely by a steel mask. Round green lenses had replaced his eyes, and a smooth rebreather unit his mouth and nose. Escher knelt and held out her hand for his blessing. Mechadendrite tipped with an interface plug, slipped down and stroked her upturned palm.
May he who is three yet one bless, and keep you in knowledge. Princess, not yours, Escher anymore.
Chrysophane head twitched short, bringing him down to a more human level. Further mechadendrites moved from under his wing, until he was surrounded by a dancing crowd of metal tentacles. They caressed the hands of the princess as he blessed them all with his authority. As Manfred adjourned, Escher was permitted to rise first. She did, and looked into the green glass eyes of the Vox. You have come to awaken the Great Mother.
Your mother wakes already, Mistress Escher.
Chrysophane's voice was human sounding, but synthesized, and it rasped on the words.
The fleet has made good speed through the Ethereum. Battle calls us. Great Mother Morgana Carter Phi will be brought to full functionality today, so she may lead Legio Stellaria on spot.
You've seen that already, said Escher. She looked back at the Titan head. Rousing her takes longer every time.
A precaution, Huntress, said the priest. She's wrong. It is best all should be done correctly, according to the precepts of scripture and manual, and to risk one so honored as the Great Mother through haste.
Escher gave him a queer look. I'm taking that into account. I calculate not enough time has passed for us to have reached the core worlds of the Garden Cresta, even given their fair warp current. We're not due to leave the warp for another 4 days. How's her opportunity? Despite her pledge to remain distant, she asked the question with a daughter's concern, not as an officer of the Legio.
We arrive soon at Caesar Garden, said Chrysophane. One day, perhaps two.
But we were bound for Beta Garmin itself, at the center of the subsector. The capital system. Why have we changed heading?
New orders.
He sounded regretful.
You have not been informed?
No, she said, I have not.
For that I apologize.
You can tell me now, Your Holiness, surely. Chrysophane gestured in agreement, a strange, tentacular, mechanical shrug.
We have been diverted to the shipyards of Theta Gamma. A major attack is underway. There is much glory to the machine in the shipyards and hydrogen harvesters that bring the world. These works cannot be sullied by those of the false mechanicum.
Only the Great Mother has the authority to change the target. Yet she sleeps, said Escher. Why was she not consulted? What is Major Principia Militaris Ultim Multiplius do?
In the absence of a Grand Master's guidance, it is usual for the Major Principia of a Legio to interpret commands and decide upon the best course of action, he said smoothly. As well you know, Princess Rejoice, the orders came from Terra. They are the words of Lord Dawn himself.
We are Legio Titanica of the Mechanical. We are not beholden to a distant primax, we. Christophane's disturbingly false voice smiled as he spoke.
No longer the Mechanicum. We have entered a new iteration. We are the Adeptus Mechanicus, and the orders sent to us are ratified for all Forge Worlds by the Stamp of Zagreus Kane, true Fabricator General, Lord of the Senatorum Imperialis of Terra, and ruler in exile of Most Holy Mass. So, if you prefer, our orders come from the highest possible authority. If you have any concerns, raise them with the Major Principia Militaris. I am sure he will hear you out. Honored daughter of the Great Mother.
That I shall, she said.
Now please, I beg you. I have work to attend to. You must depart.
Christophane gestured firmly towards the door of the chapel. The twin doors opened, and a solemn procession of chanting priests filed into the nails. All had their heads carried over with carved red and cream robes. Though the colours of tidings remained as they had for centuries, new sigils and devices spoke of the change of regime rippling throughout the Martian Empire. I don't like it, said Jahan quietly to Escher. Mother says given us so much receipt. Escher silenced her deputy with a look, before turning her gaze to the Vox Omni Machina. You should have awoken the Great Mother, she said to Christopher. It was her choice to make, not the priesthood's. She is Bellatrix Altus. The Legio is her command.
She decides the war, whereas we should only look to the spiritual and physical needs of our engines,
said Christophane somewhat patronizingly.
If only the machines had seen to set the mechanisms of the Machina Cosma to a lower complexity grade. But life is not so simple. Would you have the Legio defy the Lord Commander of the entire Imperium and the Fabricator General because of protocol?
She stared back at him.
I understand. You have divined that under normal circumstances she would have been awoken. In this instance, I decided it was better to let her sleep. She is fine, I assure you. I took precautions because of her age, and meant no disrespect.
If she is ailing, I should have been told, said Escher. And I should have been told of the orders. While the Great Mother is asleep, I am determined second. And I've elected Princess Senioris of the Legio before the village.
Princess Senioris is a battlefield rank of brevet status. It has no standing in the determination of Legio deployment, said Christophane.
It is the best we have. I should have been consulted.
There was no need. She's fine,
repeated Christophane sternly. His telescopic legs extended, taking him up into the air. He began directing his minions with data bursts and gestures to his supplemental limbs.
Now, we really do have work to do. Please do not lapse into argumentative mode again. You are close to modus unbecoming.
I am not a tech priest, Escher said.
You are a servant of the Adeptus Mechanicus, and therefore subject to its laws,
he said. The priests took up station around the room, some swinging censers, others relieving the more junior engineers from their stations in the cloisters, who bowed and departed silently. Devices were wielded and hooked up to machine banks and struck with golden spanners to the time-honored rhythms of big function. The pitch of noise in the room changed. The harmony of machine failed. Peace retreated from the room. Luxor in Victoria's steely wrath took its place. I'll be lodging a formal article of dissatisfaction about this, Escher said.
Forgive me for saying, but it is not for you to decide anyway,
said Christophane. Escher stepped down from the doorway. Instinctively, her maniple sisters reformed around her, spreading out along the walkway as if they were machine bonded to their engines and providing covering fire from high ground. You are wrong, said Escher. Christophane was not insensitive to Escher's concern for her mother. and wise enough in the ways of baseline humanity to see that her fear caused her behavior, more than the potential break in the chain of command. He bowed in conciliatory fashion.
Soon we shall see. When awoken, the great mother of the Legio will have her say. That really is the last of it. For I must terminate our discourse and communicate directly with Luxor in Victoria.
The counting began. Servitors strode in bearing heavy metal boxes. A whoosh of metallon blasted from a venting pipe behind the Titan's neck ring. Metal creaked as it contracted in the cold. Lights and heads blinked in rapid sequence. Very well, said Escher. She bowed and clicked her heels together. Your Holiness.
Princess Majoris,
said Christopher. The captain lasted seconds. A machinic whine belt. Mechanisms engaging beneath the floor shook in the belts. Flashing lumens blinked into action around the rear of the chapel. The back wall cracked along hidden seams and swung open upon the dropship hangar bay behind the nails, where the first manifold god engines stood bathed in an orange sodium glare. The air in the engine hall was stale and carried the gunpowder stink of the open void. Compared to the rich interior of the nails, the hangar space was miserly in decoration, all bare pastille and plain undercoat. The jewel-box glory of the temple was diluted by its utilitarian vastness. The holy became mundane, more of a factory than a faith, though both were places of worship to those of the cult mechanicus. The other princeps came off the walkway, except Tosa Mindef, who tarried and craned her neck to look into the hangar. Klaxons honked as Luxor Indictoria's head slid backwards on rails, revealed by the chapel's transformation. Princeps Mindef, we are leaving, said Escher. We should not disturb the Great Mother's final peace. One more minute, please, Princess Majoris. I wish to look upon the Myrmidons a moment. It has been too long since I bonded with my ownership, and the god engines of first manifold are the exemplars of our Legio. No, now, said Escher forcefully. You will see the gods of war walk soon enough, and through Procol Biden's eyes. Yes, Princeps Majoris, said Mindef. Escher waited for her to get into line with her comrades, before turning smartly on her heel and ushering her manifold out of the chapel through the bustle of priests, awakening the Grand Master of the Legio Solaria. Chapter 3. The Way to Theta Gamma. Mohana Mankata Bai, bathed in a liquid warmth so different from the caress of sunlight. She was blind, and for a moment did not know where she was. She opened her mouth to speak. Liquid moved around the aching stomach of her tongue. It was already in her lungs. She was drowning in the mouth time. But she did not panic. Many things.
All right, my Dawnbreaker cohort.
It expressed itself as a line of text across the darkness of her mind. What is this sign? Disembodied chatter answered.